Welcome everyone to yet another amazing The Chirpy Startup Garage Oceanside chat. Today we have Jonathan, how do you say your last name?
Hung, yeah.
Who is a member of TCA. We have been bringing in a few people from TCA, Tech Host Angels. It's an angel investment network of people who come together, screen businesses and make investments, during different quarters. And I think our last TCA speaker is why we were able to get Jonathan. So thank you to him. He was talking a little bit about how investment through angel groups is happening during COVID time. And today's topic is going to be a little bit more specific to the difference between angel and venture capitalist investing and how to convince people to pay you money for what your idea is, I think, right, John?
Yep.
John he's also the co-managing partner of Unicorn Ventures, so he has some experience in both VC and angel. He also helps manage, he's the managing member of his family's office fund, and they've invested in a myriad of companies, some of them Miso Robotics, Clover Health, Daily Harvest, Team Kitchens, Leaf Link. I don't know if you have a specific lean towards an industry. I'll let you talk about that if you want.
Sure.
He worked at Morgan Stanley, UBS, and Cummins, and he holds a myriad of degrees from our own USC, which is, I think, how we nabbed him to come and talk to us now, from the London School of Economics, from MIT, and from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. So I just want to say, once again, thank you, John, for taking time and coming and talking to us about investment. And I'm just going to let you take it away.
Of course. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. So yeah, I don't have like too much to discuss, but I figure like it's great to have open-ended questions, but I'll just give a background about who I am and what I see the differences of, angel investing versus working with a venture fund. So let's see. I started in 2012 as an angel investor. I came back home to take over my family business, which Arcelia didn't mention is I also run a contract manufacturing business in China. So I've done extensive work. I've been throughout China, in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Dalian, Shanghai, making men's clothing from basically suit separates, pants, underwear, knit shirts, woven shirts, and anything you could think of. Like I've worked with big retailers like Costco or Amazon or Burlington Coat Factory, or small little like catalog businesses. It's been very interesting, the schmata business. I've worked in Wall Street, and they'd say like, you think you meet some like scummy people on Wall Street, or lawyers, but no, you haven't been in the clothing business, because a contract is just a good place to start, right? In the past, my father had to sue Walmart, so no more trips to Bentonville, Arkansas, because they'll or Forever 21. I know they'll cancel you for just one button missing, It's like, ooh, geez, but it's finished. But from there, I started taking over the family business. We're probably going to move it more towards an investment holding company in the coming year, because, where we were is just totally different, with COVID, with how online retail sales have gone up. It's all new. It's a whole new world now for brick and mortar. But as an angel investor, I heard about Silicon Beach back then. I just wanted to get in and see what it was all about. Really, it's funny when you start out, you just never know what's going to happen. Like when I first started in as an angel investor, I got this first pitch. It was called GIFT, GYFT. It was from my friend now, who I've known Buck since 2012. It was about mobile gift cards. And the idea where like, you have your, your card, right? And it's just like the physical card space at that time was like 90%. And this is before Apple Pay came out, Samsung Pay, and so it's like, why would you want to have the card instead of just like you could have it on you at all times on your mobile phone? And I thought that was just a great idea at the time. I put in like 25,000, as like an angel investor. And, a month later I heard, Ashton Kutcher at A+ Investments wants to put $1 million into the round. And I'm like, there's still room. So you want to put more? I'm like, all right, let's put in 50. And so 10 months later, it got acquired by First Data. And if you look at like the back of your business card, you're like, what First Data is? First Data just became private again. But First Data is basically the Star Network. That's how it links all of your ATM cards around the world. And so it was just the beginning, was a great investment. We got like 2.5 times our money. which is wonderful. And it was like, that got me going and it was great. And so since then, I've probably done over 80 plus different direct investments as an angel investor, anywhere from pre-seed all the way to Series D. For example, one of my Series D investments will be SPACing soon, or has SPACed with Chamath at Social Capital. So it's his third one. It's called Clover Health. We'll see. We'll see how it trades. It's trading at like $10.30 right now, but it'll close sometime end of this month or beginning of January, and we'll be able to sell in I think the summertime. So hopefully then we'll have a vaccine. Go party. um, Also, I've been a big investor in a lot of funds. So as an LP, I've been in things throughout Southern California, like let's see, I always forget everything, but like BAM Ventures with Brian Lee and Rich Stroom, um, Halogen Ventures with Jesse Draper, M13 with Carter and Courtney, uh, Wavemaker, where Buck now is also a managing partner there with Eric. Yeah, a bunch of different funds. And at the same time, after I got my Wharton MBA, I started a fund with two of my really close friends called Unicorn Venture Partners. We basically are a pre-seed, seed, and Series A fund. The good news is, it's like we don't have a lot of fiduciary responsibilities yet because it's just our money. We decided to create a fund where, $5 to $6 million fund. Let's see how everything goes. Let's create an internal track record for each other. So we'll invest in these kind of three verticals. One is technology, that's very broad. Consumer, also very broad, but that could be consumer tech, that could be a brand in itself. Or another one, a third vertical is our automotive. So as part of Unicorn, we do the early stuff, but then my other partner, Philip, he has something known as Truesdale Ventures, which I'm also a partner in. And in that the check sizes from there. Well, let me start over. For Unicorn, our check sizes are anywhere from 100,000 to 250,000, right? And $500,000. And so as an angel investor, my check size could be anywhere, really, I like to do 25,000 all the way up to 100,000 initially and even more. And for Truesdale, where that is a family office where, it could be anywhere from first check-in all the way to pre-IPO. So Philip has mentioned that, that check size anywhere from 50,000 to 100 million. And things that we acquire, we could do is fund of funds, we do private equity, we can also do takeovers. And one thing that we actually bought most recently is a company called Myers Manx. I don't know if anyone knows that company, but it was started by Bruce Myers in 1964. And that's basically the first dune buggy company. And so if you ever seen Dune Buggy, you could go on YouTube and type in Myers Manx, and it'll either be like with Steve McQueen wrote it in the Thomas Crown Affair, the original Thomas Crown Affair, not the one with Pierce Brosnan. That was with him and Faye Dunaway, or that Elvis Presley, the opening scene of a movie is like riding a Myers Manx. So, cool things. We're going to see what the future holds. I have like weekly calls for that right now, and we're moving to Oceanside to have the headquarters. Yeah. So let's see. So I guess my talk is mostly about when you go fundraise from an angel investor versus a VC, like what do you see as the differences? And I think no matter what, whether you're doing a pre-seed check as an angel or as a seed investor, I think the big four things I would look at is always the same. But the difference is that I'll mention after. So really, number one, so important because you're so early. Like, I mean, I tell people, like, when you're going after like Andreessen Horowitz money or Sequoia money, those people, they're investing in Series A, B, and C. I mean, that's when you have more than just an MVP, that you're ready. You've already made a good amount of capital in terms of revenue, and you just need money to scale. I mean, think of it that way. It's like, I don't want to be an investment banker. Like, those are people who would, like, they have all the great degrees, they go in and look at things and just like, okay, well, how does it make sense if I just plump more money here, there, and there? It's basically saying like, oh, the dials are there, the switches are there, and you just got to like, navigate to find the right mix. But when it's this early pre-seed and seed, like, you're building the entire dashboard. You have no idea who your customer is. You have no idea if you're doing the right product. And honestly, you're going to be pivoting. I mean, I could give so many examples as an angel investor where like, oh, that's not what the company, when I first put the check in, what they're doing today, not even close of what they're doing. But you know what was so important was the team. And that's what we look at first. As an angel investor or seed investor, I look at, is this a world-class team? That is going to be what really makes this company take off, because I care about getting to your Series A. I always tell people, like, my job as an investor is to get you through high school, and then, Series A money and more, that's like going to college. And then like whether you get a master's or you're, going to get that high paying job down the way, those are those guys. And I'm off. I'm not going to be on your board then. Hopefully you'll still remember me. Hopefully we can still, when you go ring that bell, you'll let me know, or, God willing, I put enough money that you'll let me come see you on the stock exchange, right? But that is the most important thing to me. I can tell you times where like, it takes a type of investor to look at an individual and see who they are. The character really, really, truly matters when it comes to investing so early. Another thing I look at most importantly out of the four is this some sort of world-class intellectual property? Is there something unique? Is there something that they're looking at in the space that no one else is? Sometimes like that resonates with me. I mean, just like the case with Gift, I realized then it was like, yeah, I mean, it was a simple pitch and it was just like, okay, mobile gift cards. That just makes sense. Like in this day and age where, data's eating everything. I mean, like everyone has an iPhone, everyone has a Samsung. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. So trying to understand that tech, why it made sense, and then go from there. 3 and 4 are kind of related, but not really, because it depends how you view things as an investor. I look at customer growth. That's really huge. I mean, if you looked at LinkedIn, for example, when Reid Hoffman started it in about 2003, after he exited out of PayPal, was that they weren't having any revenue, but the customer growth was crazy. The number of users growing every day. He basically went to Sand Hill Road and talked to everybody and said, listen, you don't have to invest, but get people to sign up for LinkedIn. It's a great place sharing data, sharing info. And if you see that, like sometimes you look at customer growth as huge because like, well, when Facebook started, they didn't have any idea of how to monetize. I've talked to people who put in money when Facebook was valued at $1 billion, and they'll be honest, they still didn't see what they see today, Facebook being, but they just saw the enormous enormous customer growth happening, the number of users happening. So that's really something important that we look at, that I look at as well. And the last thing is revenue growth. And revenue growth isn't saying like, for consumers products, like when a seed investor, sometimes you look at it like, hey, you got to go from 0 to 1 million. And then from a million, you should be tripling the next year, and then tripling to 9 million the second year. And then after that, you should be going to 18 million. And then after that, 36 million. You're on a trajectory to get to like 100 million in sales. Because like for consumer goods, I sit on a board of a beverage company called Skin Tea. And we look at it where like at 40 million in revenue is where you get to profitability. Like, so you have to do 40 million in sales before you're considered profitable, because the amount of money you're spending on on marketing or your team or growing it out, it's just crazy. And someone like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, they won't even consider acquiring a beverage company until you're at 200 million in sales. Because to them, it's like, I already have everything in place, the vertical landscape in place. All I want to do is you have a great brand. I could plug it in and I can make your cogs cheaper. And that's why like I'm going to buy and acquire your company.
I have a question, John, before you move forward.
Yeah.
So two questions, actually. The first is about your first point, which is, like, is this a world-class team? So I often hear that, discussions, especially with these screenings, these angel screenings that you guys do, that as soon as the team leaves the room, one of the best things that you can have an advocate on the panel of angel investors speaking for you once you're out and answering questions and kind of pushing for you. And so do you have any advice as to how to build those kinds of relationships with investors so that you can kind of get one of those members on the panel that's advocating for you when you're out of the room after you've been screened? How do you build those relationships positively? How do you get people to believe in you as a world-class team? Like, what specifically are you looking for?
Yeah, it really is that. For me personally, like I've been actually took on a role as a co-founder for one of my companies called Team Kitchens. I actually had a 1-hour call with him, and it was just getting to know the person really, really, really well. Not just understanding like, hey, his titles. Like he was the founder of Ordermark. Yeah, he was one of the co-founders of Ordermark. That's great. Ordermark just raised like 120 million. Right? But it was really just like going through your network, just like where I invest in other things. It's just taking the time to understand who that individual is and what they've been through. I mean, once you go to TCA, for example, right? Like I'm on the screening committee, and we talk about like, yeah, first of all, we look at things and say like, yeah, I don't know. Because like once you've heard like your 10th like fintech company of how you're going to do property, you know, how you're going to make it easier for uh, renters to pay their monthly rent. Like, yeah, it's like, how is this anywhere more unique than the other 6 or 16 you've heard of? But sometimes, like, because when you're going through due diligence, for example, for Tech Coast Angels, you're going to have somebody who's going to be your lead, your sponsor, if you will. Because, obviously you can go in cold, right? You can apply online and get in, but, it's always better to have somebody there advocate for you because, you're amongst a respected number of people. Because that's why I say a world-class team matters, because someone like that, like, it's not just, oh, hey, a shot in the dark email that you sent to somebody or a LinkedIn request. It's like you actually have a warm introduction. I know people in venture that they won't even like respond to an email unless they were like led in by somebody. So I think that's the key of getting to know somebody warmly enough that you're willing to stake, yeah, not necessarily all your money on the pile, but to get to learn them more and more. Because the thing is, what your company is today, it's not going to be what it is 6 months from now.
And then I guess my second question is about your second point, which is, the unique IP and whether or not you're building something very interesting and innovative.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes startups are innovating in kind of a more crowded space. Yep. And I'm wondering, are those just like hard stops, or is there a way to kind of make an investor more comfortable when you are in a bit of a crowded space and you're innovating in that space?
Yeah, for me, it's just like, well, what are you adding to your team? Because, right, like when I say team, it's not just the co-founder and the two co-founders, right? It's who they're going to add and bring in, who are their advisors. Perfect example of just like, and this is like how like I know like Miso Robotics would never have gone through our investment committee for Unicorn, because I just know how my other partners are, especially the other partner, Dave. And like, I literally got pitched this for Miso Robotics. We're 4 PhD Caltech roboticists doing our PhD program here at Caltech, and we want to make a robot that flips hamburgers. Done. Was there a robot? No. But we're going to figure it out. And would you be willing at $3 million valuation to put in money? Like, not many people would do that. I'll be quite honest. And I did it because a couple of reasons. It's like, oh, okay, it made sense. I saw that was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, at McDonald's, you'll see it like, hey, America's your best first job, because no one like is going to be a hamburger flipper for 20 years. All right, that's just like something you do for 3 months or like 6 months, whatever, to make some part-time money or whatever you want to look at. It's not a career. And second of all, it was because of my close relation with Buck Jordan. He saw that as something where like he loved the team, he loved the people that he could get to help advise and come in on that round. And if you look at it now, Miso Robotics just closed a seed invest deal where now I think they're valued at 100 million, and they've done a pilot with White Castle. And the funny thing is, it's not even a burger flipper company anymore. I mean, they have that. They're still flippy, but really it's more like a fry bot now. Like they're trying to revolutionize like, frying foods, because that's such a like not labor intensive, but that's just like, a little bit dangerous, a little dangerous than the grill itself, like getting the right temperatures. And right now the pilot's going to go into 10 more White Castles. And yeah, they're just growing and growing and growing. We brought in a new CEO, but Mike Bell, to take over the reins, because just like initially, when you look at a company, the team's always going to be changing at every step.
I feel like during these kind of pivots, there's usually like a need for more capital and like a bridge round. Can you say anything about how to successfully pull that off with your previous investors to get them to kind of reinvest and give more money for a pivot? Like, obviously you guys want, you want the company to be successful so that you guys can get your return on that investment. And so there's some value to putting more money in. Yeah. But what do you guys need to hear when a team is pivoting, for instance, with Miso Robotics from one to the other? I don't know.
I think the most important thing is getting like a consortium of people, because when you look at all these funds or even an angel investor, no one's going to write the entire check or every round all the way through. It's just impossible. No one's going to be the lead investor through everything. And so I always tell like my founders, like, okay, you got our buy-in now, get us more people. to come in and see if it makes sense. Because like we only could do so much. Like, yes, we could give you more capital, but that's not going to necessarily help your pivot at that time. If you get this person who, you know, let's say he was the president of Jordan Brand, you know, and he has different like contacts through China because of his Jordan Brand relation. That makes sense. That's something I don't have, you know, with athletes. That makes sense for your product. You know, that's happening right now for one of our companies. Like we could easily write another check for our beverage company, but it doesn't matter because we want to grow. We want to get to scale. Sometimes, and when you look at it from an angel investor's perspective versus a fund, listen, sometimes an angel investor, they're not going to have that network of capital. They might have enough money to do your pre-seed round, which is great, you know, like, hey, putting in money, and they might have amazing technical experience. It could be a doctor of this or a PhD of that. And it's great, you know, but listen, it takes effort to put in a lot more money. I mean, like perfect example. I mean, I can't talk too much about this company because he won't even let me put the logo on our website, but I'll say this, he was like, I believe the 7th employee at Amazon. Okay, and he could tell you stories of why, like, you know, why they allow dogs at Amazon. Because he told us, like, oh, at the time there was an engineer who had a dog, and his only requirement was that he could bring his dog to work. So that's why at Amazon it's so dog friendly to this day. But you know, that someone who was 7th employee in Amazon, I'm pretty sure he's got some millions lying around at this point, even though he left around 2000 something. You know, I'm sure he has stock. But the thing is that he doesn't just want to put, it's not that he doesn't want to believe in his own baby, right? And he thinks it's not going to take off. It's just that he knows he himself putting in money is not enough. He needs a consortium of different investors to come in and help him take him to scale. Like he's got 3 Fortune 500 companies for his HR platform right now signed up, which is great, but he needs more from that. And right now we look at it, hey, we're putting in a C check in and we're going to give you a Series A check down the road. And then from there, we're going to send you to everybody we know in Silicon Valley or through our family office networks or high net worth individuals to get you to that next round.
Thank you. Do you mind if I ask the group if they have any questions since we're about midway through?
Yeah, I think someone raised their hand, but like Jorge, how are you on mute? Still on mute.
Thank you.
Is he still on mute?
Ready?
Hey.
Oh, sorry, I'm on mute. Sorry, I'm
you're on mute.
I think my audio was wrong. Sorry. Hi, Jonathan, and thank you for the time. I have a really quick question. Yeah. So to reach out angels, I think like when you're figuring out ideas and you don't know when is the right timing to start like reaching out to angels because you don't want to look dumb because you're still like, you know, sketching up these ideas and finding out like a business model. So when would you say it's the right timing to start like looking for either some feedback from an angel's perspective or also like to get this champion towards the kind of this raising fund like timing or process?
Yeah. First and foremost, like I have a lot of blogs about this. So everyone, like, you know, you can go to jonathanhung.com and you'll see a lot of blogs I've written about this, but like, I'll give you my perspective of that. I mean, it's like, and I've heard, and I've sat with like Mark Suster up front and, you know, his series, he does a lot of like videos and podcasts and whatever, but he always says, always be raising. And it's not necessarily that you're ready to take in money, but you're never gonna know who you're gonna meet. Like perfect example, like I went to an upfront breakfast and they don't do this anymore, but they were doing it like every Friday, you know, meeting people. And this is around 2017. And I was with my business partner, Dave Lynn at the time. You know, we hadn't started our fund yet and we were just investing. It's like, because Dave used to be at GRP, which is now Upfront, Global Retail Partners, I believe it was, you know, and at that time it was a pivot from going into retail investing. They were like first into Starbucks or in Costco. And now, you know, look at where Upfront is now. I mean, they're very consumer tech oriented or just tech investors and the largest in LA. But, you know, I just went there just to go network, to talk to people. And I had no idea who I was going to meet. You know, I got put on like a group, just got split up. Like we had a Zoom meeting now, we got split in the group and just listened. And I met this guy, his name's Matt Dana. And the funniest thing is like, you know, that first year back in like August 2000, Matt would just like text me, you know, because like at that time he was raising money at a $3 million valuation, safe note, right, with a 20% discount. And you know, so if it actually you know, if it converted, you know, it would be like the company would be worth 2.4 million, right? I don't know money I invested. So it was really a friends and family round. That was like a true angel round. And I didn't know too much about the space, but I looked into it and I was curious because I use Open Table all the time. Like, I think Open Table is brilliant. I mean, you can't use it now because you can't go out, right? But it was just like, oh, like, I don't want to talk to people, to do a reservation. Like, that's just so annoying. But like for him, it's just like, hey, he had a great team, him and his CTO and best friend and partner, Sean, they were out of full screen. And just talking to them, it's like, oh, okay, well, we're trying to create like a reservation platform for like salons, and like nails and whatnot. And I'm like, okay. At the time, like Dave told me, look, there's MindBody. MindBody actually got invested by TCA way back in time as an angel investor, and they went public and everything, so it was great. So it's like, why would you want to? He told me, why would you want to invest in a company there's already predominantly a market leader in it? And I just thought, you know what, I liked the team. And whatever, who Matt is. And, I took him out on the ringer. We went out. I got to know them a little bit more. And I decided, okay, my regret now is that I didn't put more money in, because I wrote a $15,000 check at 3 million. And then like 10 months later, he was able to, 6 months later, he was raised again at 7 million cap. And I said, oh, let me get to my usual 25, right? Still as an angel investor. And so, you know what Matt was really good at? He was great at explaining his story and finding the right tech team and going out there. And so, like, the funny thing is, like, I can't get Matt on the phone now anymore. Because last time I checked, I sent him a message last week before Thanksgiving congratulating him, because on TechCrunch, we're right on LinkedIn on his, like, we're friends on LinkedIn, I guess. It's like, Boulevard, his company, just raised a $27 million Series B round led by Index Ventures. And like, all I wanted to ask him, because I don't know if he would even respond, was like, what is the valuation? Like, what did you get it at? And the last time, like, when I texted him, literally the last text was me saying, congratulating him on his Series A, with no response.
That is so funny, because working at the garage, I'm always hearing kind of like pain point stories from founders about, how they can't get you guys on the phone.
Yeah.
I think that was literally the first time I ever heard that in a reverse.
Yeah, no, and it was like, I congratulated him. I actually went to my other friends, Laurent girl at Lumalaunch, because I know they led like a 750K seed investment in. And I asked him, like, hey, what was the valuation at? It's like 90 million. Oh, that's great. So, going from 2.4 to 90 million on paper makes me look like, a hero. But trust me, that's not always the case. But it was just, it was just a meeting at Upfront, at a breakfast series, and not knowing. And that's what it was. So, like, he didn't know who I was, but like, you go to these events all the time. And now, right now, we can't go. There's like lava things or TCA things. You can't do in person, but this is still great. Like, the funny thing is, like, through Zoom, I've made so many investments since March. I got to meet like one of the owners of Triller, and Jason's ma is a friend of mine now, and just hearing how Triller came about, he asked if I wanted to do like, the unicorn valuation round. And we said no, because you only gave me 7 days to look at due diligence. I mean, even President Trump's giving TikTok 45 days to sell, like, impossible. And talked about like the Tyson fight. And he told me like, oh, I just hope Mike doesn't like knock him out the first 10 seconds. So it's possible. I say always go to these events, sign up, look for things. There's always great places and times to meet people.
Sure. That's great advice. Great question, Jorge or George. I think it's important to start the relationships, right? I mean, if building trust is such a huge part in who you are as a person and a team, then introducing yourself early isn't necessarily a bad thing, because the next time you run into the person, hopefully you've made some progress and you can talk about that, and that kind of will allow you to build that trust over time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and the best thing I would say is like, listen, like, it's not like you're going to be known for just one thing. I mean, and you might fail the first time. Like, I've had a bunch of entrepreneurs that have failed for their startup, but you know what? They came back again. And there's so many stories about that where like it didn't make sense. Like, best case was like what I'm working on now with Team Kitchens. I invested in Mike Jacobs' like basically third company called Grilla. It was basically for online guerrilla marketing. Because I do believe that marketing is not going to be just like, hey, you're going to be sending emails or texts or even seeing pictures on Instagram. I think it's going to be video. That's why you see where TikTok and Triller are. It's more about that now than just like, hey, here's a picture. of this Instagram influencer drinking something. It's going to be, you actually see it, live shopping.
We have another question to Rob. Are you still there? And then Julian after.
Yeah, Julian.
Yeah. Hi. Nice to meet you. So my question is around like when you say you care a lot about team. So can you be a little bit more specific on that? What are the specific aspects, things that you try to find in that team?
Yeah, and that depends on like what your company is about, right? I mean, if you have beverage experience, for example, and you've worked, perfect example is we looked at a company really recently called Uprising Food. And it's basically trying to change how bread is made, or how you eat bread daily. It's really clean company, 4 to 5 ingredients. They're out of Cincinnati, Ohio, and this guy used to work at P&G, and he wasn't necessarily a baker himself, but his co-founders were bakers. One of the predominant bakers in that area. And so they created this cube of bread where it's uncut. I mean, it gets sent directly to you. There's nothing in stores right now. And it was like, wow, it was great. It was like, wow, you feel like that it satisfies you. It's keto friendly, it's paleo friendly. I mean, there's no gluten. And it was just like, okay, well, it wasn't that he was a baker, but he had a great team, a husband and wife who were bakers, well known in that area, come up with this formulation. But he had the best sense of being at P&G, working there, going through the process. And he wasn't even in the food business. He was in like the skincare system. But through that, he was able to get an investment from P&G. I think I can say that now. At the time I couldn't, and that would like made sense, like that relationship. And like, what does he know about making bread or a CPG company? But because of his team and his relationships and his background, it made sense. And now Uprising, if you put that in, you Google that, it's going to follow you everywhere on Instagram.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you so much. Makes sense.
Go ahead,
Julian?
Hi, Jonathan. You've got really a kind of warm, affable personality, which is really endearing. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. So, and give a bit of background to us. So we're part of the Startup Garage, Open Sesame. We're doing consumer entertainment applications. So we're doing something which is TikTok for voice. And we just raised this morning about 550,000 through a German state fund. And so our total funding now is at about $1 million, which is great. So I wanted to ask specifically around the 2 different types of investments. So, and the returns and the valuations associated with each. So, when you're doing the angel funds of like, you're putting in 25K or 15K or whatever. What are you expecting on the return on that, and what valuation are you like coming in? And then when you're unicorn, where it's slightly higher, what are the valuations you're normally coming on that, and then what's the return you're expecting on that? On that money? Yeah.
Okay. So I could give you that example, like time horizon. So when we look at investments, right? Like honestly, like through a funds perspective, you're a seed investor. Like Peter Thiel talks about this, and it's just like, hey, this is gonna pay everyone back. This is gonna be the company, right? I mean, because like you're gonna have 20, 25 core investments, depending how much you raise. Let's say 50 million or 100 million, and whatever the check size is, you're gonna believe that this company is gonna pay for everything. So you're not necessarily worried about like time horizon right away. But if you're like a late stage investor, or for example, we've done late stage investing through Unicorn. We technically, I mean, if you're going to call yourself Unicorn, you better have a unicorn. Unfortunately, one of our unicorns is no longer a unicorn, but I think it still will be. But perfect example for the 2 cases. One is Lime. We're in Lime scooters. Now, we got Lime scooters through our friends, the Bush family, through Amanda Bush. She's married to George P. Bush, who's the current Texas Land Commissioner in Texas. We got sent it. They have direct contact with the team there. At the time when we did the investment, it was about a 2.4 billion valuation. And at the same time, Bird was raising money as well. And so at that point, you're going to be in one or the other. You can't be in both. Like as an angel investor, you could do both, right? Because like, they're not going to be like, oh, set terms and tell you can't be in both companies. But now like, okay, what we saw differently at the time was that, listen, unfortunately, COVID happened, and they ran out of money, and they had to take the deal from Uber. And Uber probably owns like about 20 to 30% of the company now. But they took the valuation down from 2.4 billion to 550 million. So that looks horrible. You just lost 75% plus of your money. But we still believe in the thesis. Lime is like, we're here in California. I mean, in Los Angeles, you're going to see more birds. That's the case. But guess what? If you go to Europe, you're going to see limes everywhere. Right. If you go to Asia or Vietnam, you're going to see limes. And the thing about Lime is that their next generation scooters, they're getting first in. I mean, like a bird right now, you could buy a bird online. They're selling them, right? That's not the Lime strategy, but you can buy a bird now. But bird, it was always catching up on the tech, because you're understanding from a manufacturing point of view, like, it's not that like, hey, they have just better technologies. No, it's just that the fat manufacturers, like Lime had a better relationship with the manufacturer, with Ninebot, to get their scooters out faster. That's all it was. Just like if I'm Costco, I'm going to be able to like get in the factory and get my clothes made. Unless you're just like a simple person who's just trying to, you have like, listen, you could do 1 million in sales, which is great, but that's just nothing compared to what Costco ordered, where it could be like 20 million just for one shirt, because you put a Kirkland signature on it. So factories are going to go through that. But when we looked at Lime, and another company we looked at was Coinbase. So we did Coinbase at the Series D investment, and look where it is now. Like, we look like geniuses. We should have put in more money, right? I was like, but people are like, $8 billion valuation. That sounds like pricey. But we knew then what we believe now to be the case is that that's like a 3 to 5 year time horizon. We got into Coinbase around 2018. We also got into Lime in 2018. We knew within those a 3 to 5 year window that there was going to be some sort of liquidation event, whether somebody was going to buy it or they were going to go IPO. My belief is that, Coinbase will IPO next year. I think I've been told, from what I've heard, anywhere right now, they might come out at 15 to 20 billion. So we could have 2x'd our money and if you're an investor, you're looking at your IRR, you're looking at the time frame. And so that looks good. That's beating the S&P. So we look at those cases for when it's like late stage. But when it's for really, really early angel investors, like, honestly, it's just gambling. It really is.
It's just a risk. Yeah.
Right? Because you're just looking at it where it's just like, listen, look at a roulette table. I don't know if everyone plays roulette, but it's just like, when we're like a unicorn stage, like, we're betting on black and red at that point, right? And God willing, it doesn't land on 00. But I mean, like, you're pretty sure your odds are better. But you're basically, as an angel, you're betting on one number to really hit it. And what some angel investors do really well, what I've learned and seen, is that, they bet on the sector. So maybe they won't write like a $100,000 check, or no, let's say $100,000 check on one specific company. They'll do $10,000 checks within the same sector. Like, how do I know Slack is going to be Slack? There's so many of Slack type companies at the time. But if I bet on one, it'll cover enough I'll have some risk mitigation. So some people look at that and they have themes. So that's why, like, certain funds, like, this is what we believe in. I just got off a call with a company or a fund called Refractor Capital. They're raising their fund 3. And I was in fund 1 and I'm in it. And their focus is on biology and health and tech, those factors. And it's like, I don't know that well enough, but Zal, he was a partner at Andreessen Horowitz and helped start the bio fund. And now he's running his own fund with a friend of mine, David Lee, who founded a SV Angel, with Ron Conway. And it made sense. And there's seed investors, like, for Zal, like, I trust that he's going to find the best bio and health companies and get them to Series A. And he has a network of other investors, because that's the key. When you're trying to decide whether you want an angel money or a seed investor money is going to, like, you're going to deal with a lot of lawyer talks. I mean, like, I've seen it myself. I'm with somebody right now where, I can't talk about the beverage company, but, like, he was just raising $600,000 on a $5 million post money. And that's not too crazy. He's done a great job. He's gone to Erwan, he's done some direct to consumer business, but he doesn't want to put any restrictions in. He doesn't want, like, he doesn't want to put in preferred shares. And, like, it's not that preferred shares are scary. It's just that we want to get paid first. That's all. If you exit, and we don't think you're going to exit at, like, 6 million. We don't think that, because who's going to buy your company for 6 million? I mean, that'd be great, but nobody wants that. And we also talk about certain things, like, you want to give advisor shares to somebody. I'm all with that. But but sometimes an angel investor, they won't understand, like, well, should I do advisory shares post or pre? And it's just like,
Right.
if I do it, like, you want me to give you money at 5 million, and then you're not setting aside an options pool. Why would I do that? Because I'm not getting 6% whatever of the company. I'm going to get diluted without even you bringing in more money. And so it's
Right.
like, sometimes it's like, not all money is good money. Sometimes if you want dumb money, go for it in the really beginning. Because I say that with, like, with peace and love, but it's just like that, it's easier. But as you go higher and higher down for valuation, it's going to get more complicated. You're going to put restrictions in. Like, I met somebody last week, and he started Friendster. And I don't know if anyone had a Friendster. I didn't have a Friendster account, but Friendster was probably the first,
Yep.
right, of its kind, of Facebook. And I just heard so many interesting stories. And, like, at the time, he was telling me that he basically got kicked out, of running the company and how he wanted to. And so the funny thing was, at the time, they had somebody working or advising there, and it was Sean Parker. And Sean Parker basically told Mark Zuckerberg, hey, this is what happened in Friendster. So make sure you have control of your company going forward. Because listen, and that's the thing. Like, and so those are the things you look at with like how sophisticated you want to get with the term sheets and then the deals and what you want. Because sometimes everyone wants to do a safe, and that's easy, safe, right? But more sophisticated people, they want to just put these levers in. Because, like, you could just, like, literally pay yourself whatever you want for that 500,000, because it's a safe. I can't tell you what to do. Like, we could put in restrictions, but no, we can't, right? And I asked him that, like, how do I know you won't give 20% of the company away? Like, he's like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Well, you know what? I've seen people do that.
Right. But I suppose the question I've got, Jonathan, is, like you said, you're betting and you're, it's kind of like gambling, but obviously there's certain games that you're better at than others. So you might be better at poker than you are on the roulette table. So is there particular sectors, so just took a look at the Unicorn site, that you're like, I actually know this sector well, and I also have the network of investors at Series A level to help scale this up? Because you talked about some of the consumer stuff like Lime and stuff like that, because it just helps us, like, to understand that your areas where you're the best at it as well. So
yeah, for me,
before you jump in, John, I'm just going to say that we have another question on deck from David, so I want to make sure this question gets answered also, and Hazel. So just giving you a little bit of a timestamp. Go for it.
Sure, thanks. For me, I haven't just been an investor. Like, I think what makes me unique is that I've been an operator. And so I've seen, like, consumer companies and how you work. The funny thing is that, like, doing direct consumer is totally different. You're going for that individual that you're marketing for. But if you're trying to go brick and mortar stores, you're actually trying to, like, market to, like, a couple people in that huge organization. Like, when you're dealing with Costco, you're not dealing with anywhere close with the president or the COO or anybody on there. You're dealing with one buyer for that one product. And they'll give you a test case there. And so it's like, yeah, I know that buyer, and we could walk you in, and so it's like, when I looked at the funds I invest in as well, it's not because it's like, their track record. It was like who they were and bringing in and why they are uniquely able to bring, why they're a consumer tech company, because, they have people who have done it. I invested in BAM Ventures because, I love Rich and Brian. They did great. They started, Shoe Dazzle together. They started LegalZoom, and they did The Honest Company. And even though necessarily they were then like exit out quickly, they just had those great relationships in the retail space and the right marketing people. So when I look at it that way, it's like, oh, I'm good at this. Like, if you ask me to look at like a hard science deal, I can't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. But because of my background of all the degrees I've gotten, I think I would know somebody at like all top companies out there that I would go ask. And see if it makes sense. But then, like, for me, it's a harder sell because I'm just more uniquely being able to work on consumer deals. But that's why I have great business partners. My business partner, Dave, he was there when UBS started their, internet team, for investing. And so, like, he knows B2B. No question, enterprise software. Like, I've actually gotten better experience learning through him and seeing how we look at deals better. Because it like for that consumer model, like, you got to triple, double your sales, right? But in like, you're looking at something like DocSend. I don't know if all of you are using DocSend. I hope you are. I just did an investment into DocSend personally. So, I talked to Russ, the CEO. So please use DocSend. All right. They're going to come out with e-signatures and data rooms. All right. So please, we're coming for you, DocuSign. And it was just like, oh, but Dave looks at it where it's just like, he didn't want to do the investment because they weren't growing as fast from a B2B enterprise way. And so like someone, Dave, could really help you understand that business better and what other Series A, B, C investors look at down the road. I just like DocSend. I just want that. I'm going to put that on my website. I mean, come on.
Before I move it over to David, I'm just going to do a quick plug since you were talking about your partner who does B2B well. Next week, same day, same time, we have another speaker coming in from Acela Prize. It's a fund and she does B2B SaaS investment. And so if you guys do want to learn a little bit more about B2B investments, tune in next week at the same time, same day of the week. Go for it, David.
Just to follow on that plug, Jonathan, I'm part of a team building a B2B SaaS company with a focus on sustainability in the built environment. But my question is actually kind of technical and specific, which is, I've been an angel myself and I've done convertible notes.
Yeah.
But the new term is safe note, and I actually don't understand the difference. And would just love a little bit of coaching. Like, is there a difference anymore? Is it just a matter of words, or is it not interest bearing, interest bearing?
No, there's a huge difference. But yeah, we'll finish your questions. All right.
So how do I gauge which direction I'm taking the team towards, a convertible or a safe, is fundamentally my question.
Yeah. Sometimes it depends on the type of investor you're looking for. Like, and who you're able to get the money from. Like my other business partner, Philip, he hates safe notes. He hates them. Like, because for him, it's like there's no control of the company. He would rather do a priced round, or a note or having the ability to convert the safe note after a year or two into equity. Because the idea for a safe note is that it's for future equity, right? But what if you never convert? What if you never turn that note? Because most safe notes, they don't necessarily have a time frame, and so some investors will ask you, well, listen, give me a time frame of the option of turning into equity. The difference between safe and convertible, and I think I've written a blog post about this on my website, but I think the biggest difference is this, and unfortunately we had to deal with this recently for one of our portfolio companies. A convertible note sometimes is that really it's just, well, the difference of a note, right? Because sometimes like we do investments where it's a note and it's like you're getting interest on your note, right? And so we're just debt holders and we can't tell you what to do. We can't look at how much money you're looking at or how much advisory shares are doing. Like we have no say. We're just debt holders unless we get converted into equity. And sometimes you got to be really careful because listen, you think like a year doesn't pass, but look, it's already December now, right? 2020. And it's just like, hey, if we don't think your company's going to be worth more down the road, we're going to call our note. And like, we're going to ask our money back plus the interest. And you have no choice but to give us our money, right? Because that was just a debt instrument. So, a safe is better than like a note or a convertible note because there is no time frame necessarily. And so it's better for you as the entrepreneur. But sometimes when you're negotiating with an investor, they're not necessarily okay with that. That's why there's a difference of like, smart versus dumb money at times, and that's totally fine. It's totally
and so
fine.
have you yourselves agreed to any safe notes?
Yes.
You have, and that's because of other trust factors.
Other trust factors. It's the team, the issue. Because like, listen, sometimes it's this. Like, I don't want a debt instrument because like you're not going to make it a year. Like you only like I've seen it. Like you're just asking for a safe note of what? You're not asking a safe for like millions and millions of dollars. Because if you're doing millions of dollars, I want a board seat. I want a priced round. I want equity. If you're doing like $1 million safe or $500,000 safe, yeah, that'll get you, a certain amount of runway depending on your burn. But you're not going to last. You're not going to last because you got to always be raising and like because you're not going to be successful.
So if you're the entrepreneur, the switch between safe and convertible is really dependent on the good money you're trying to get and what they're willing to tolerate is what
Yeah.
I'm hearing from you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that really is what it is, right? That's, I mean, to me, at this early of a stage, because you're not going to be doing safe notes at a Series A.
No.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
impossible. Like you're going to
All
have
right.
a priced round with the lead.
Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Sure.
Much appreciated.
Before I move it over to Hazel for her question, I just want to quickly remind everyone to use the chat function to network with each other, introduce yourself, put your LinkedIn, tell us who you are, maybe a link to your website in case you came in later and didn't hear me mention that. I'm also going to save the chat, and I don't know how exactly I'll share it, but you guys will get this video and that in some capacity. All right, Hazel.
Jonathan, nice to meet you. I'm working for a company called Volent. We're protecting the workforce from COVID using AI-powered biosensors. My question is with due diligence and times of COVID. I'm wondering, I had two short questions for you. One, how has due diligence changed since COVID started? What's the biggest marked difference you've seen on both the VC and the angel level? And the second is, I'd love to hear about one of the more recent deals that you've done the last 6 months and what made that team stand out compared, and how you evaluated them differently compared to your normal approach pre-COVID.
Right. You know, it's so interesting when you look at it at an angel investor versus like, you know, a seed or Series A investor. It's totally different because there's definitely a power shift, right, for the entrepreneur. Like if you're raising your seed and or especially your Series A, you definitely have something cooking really well, right? Because it's more than just like creating an MVP. You have more than an MVP. You're probably even making revenue. So for that point of view, our due diligence is so unique because when it's so early, a pre-seed, like I mean, honestly, like it seems like we're all kicking the can down the road right now. Like, and I think it's smart. Like I'm not going to say no. Even if I turn you down, I'm just saying, we're going to pass right now because we're going to actually need these metrics in place. Because we're going to look at like, you know, I mean, I look at this and I even have a Post-it note of it. It's like, we're going to look at your CAC or your LTV, your cohort data or an analysis. You know, we know the efficacy of your product. Can you show these data points for us? You know, and if you can't, then okay, you're a little too early for us. But if you are just some like great team, you know, and like this is like your third startup. If you're Elon Musk, like, are you even going to ask? Like, you know, I'm sure Elon could fit in a fourth company now. Why not? But it was just, that's the idea for due diligence, because it's like, it's not that necessarily we need to see you in person. We've written checks for telemedicine companies, for example, and all we've done is Zoom calls. And I can't announce the deals that we're looking at right now, but it's just that, yeah, it made sense. It made sense based on, okay, well, we need to talk to these people. Sometimes we need to talk to your customers, right? We're going to talk to like other people in your team. But because we're so early, we don't require that as much. But listen, if you're a Series A, Series B investor, like do you actually think you're not going to get background check? Like we're not going to find out if you have any DUIs or if you've declared bankruptcy or anything. Like they won't run that. Of course they will. And that's like bare minimum. I shouldn't Google search you at least. I mean, I think I'll still do that. I'll still Google you, right? Like Hazel Man, right? Put that in right now. See what pops up. I mean, but that's not real due diligence because like you're going to give somebody like, you know, millions of dollars. But when it's this early, I think the due diligence is what your company is, what makes you vastly unique, and who else is in on the deal with you. And I'm going to talk, and I'm going to also like listen, because it's not going to be enough for my one check. I'm going to see who else believes in this company. And here's the thing, like perfect example, like talking about due diligence, like Team Kitchens, for example. I didn't even realize this. And like, I don't know if anyone here is a Dodger fan, you know, but we won, you know, so the Lakers. But I don't know if you've been to the stadium and had Dodger dogs, but that's like the staple food, Dodger Stadium, right? The Dodger dog. So with Team Kitchens, Mike did a great job of getting a deal with the Dodgers to sell Dodger dogs directly to their fans. You know, we partnered up with Postmates, and it was only one location in Hollywood. And from that one location, I give him credit, he did $250,000 in sales over a 4-month period. You know, and there's a rev share you have to do with the Dodgers, right? And, you know, he also signed up Applebee's to do neighborhood wings. But you know what? I passed that deal to everybody that I knew, and they loved the idea, they loved the concept, but they just didn't want to do it because they just felt it was too early. So, you know, right now, I give Mike tremendous credit because I think it's a success. You know, the Dodgers are really pleased with him, and he only did it on $100,000. That's it, $100,000. I wrote him a $50,000 check, and he took out 50,000 of his own money. Oh, and that's so important to me as an angel investor. Like, if you put zero money in, that's just like a red flag to me. What? You put nothing in? You don't want to own part of your company? I mean, yeah, you have your the equity that, you know, of your sweat, but like still, like, put more money in to own more. Why not? And so I give Mike all the credit in the world. Now, like, you know, I'm becoming a co-founder with him. I just helped him raise another 200,000 because now he's in one location. He's going to be in 7 locations before opening day in March, because he's signing up with Travis Kalanick over there at Cloud Kitchens. And that makes perfect sense. And like, listen, at that point, now it's a great transition. What you're saying, he's not going to be asking for angel money anymore. He wants to raise a $2 million to $3 million seed round at probably a $10 million plus valuation, but because he has more than an MVP now. He has a customer that has made money, and they're going to even use even more marketing going forward. He signed up with Chow Now. He signed up. He's on Uber Eats and DoorDash because of his relationship with Applebee's. And so you can order, like, you know, wings from Applebee's, but from our ghost kitchens going forward. So that diligence, now it's going to be so much more interesting, because now funds will be like, oh, okay, you guys took the chance. Now, instead of 1 location, you're in 7 locations, and you're going to grow. And I'm going to see that, hey, you took the blueprint from LA. How can I modify that? I put in Chicago with the Cubs, or Boston with the Red Sox, or New York in the Yankees. You know, that's what's going to go for. And then, you know, the other companies, like, okay, well, we're showing Applebee's, hey, we're doing well for here in the LA market. Why can't we go to the other markets? And really, at the end of the day, it's not a food company. It's not just selling Dodger dogs or wings. At the end of the day, it's going to be a tech company. Because, and you're asking, well, how? Well, it's going to be able to where, like, you hear now Chipotle, right? Aren't they doing their own ghost kitchens? They're not going to have like a Chipotle where you can actually go order. They're only going to be delivery first. You're not going to even see. So that's the thing. But it's about order management and order process. Because, like, how are you going to be able to make sure that your wings or your Dodger dogs are going to taste the same from every location, the quality control? That's what we're going to work on next with the tech stack.
All right. So what I'm hearing from you is more heavier emphasis on traction, and then looking at the unit economics of that traction and seeing how that's scalable more so than before. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. That's super helpful.
Great question, Hazel. We have time. I mean, we're basically at time, but we have one more question on deck. It's from Tom.
Sure.
At Roman Aerospace. And then, you know, obviously, thank you guys for coming in case this is like your actual log off time, but go ahead, Tom.
Hi, Jonathan. Thanks so much for speaking with us today. My name's Tom. I'm with Roman Aerospace. We build drones and drone control systems. I'm on here with my colleague and co-founder, also named Tom. It's interesting that you mentioned Miso Robotics. We saw some interesting articles about Miso Robotics doing a collaboration with some controls labs at Caltech. And we're actually talking about some potential collaboration with some controls laboratories at Caltech. So we were wondering, were you at all concerned about a company having some of their key technology come from a university and not be fully owned or developed in-house? Or how did you navigate the great technology that Miso was getting from Caltech versus ownership and having all that stay within the firm?
Yeah. You know what? When we look at those cases, it just depends. And that's my answer. I went to MIT, right? That's what you teach you at MIT. It just depends. It's never black or white, right? It's not yes or no. It just depends. So when we looked at that, I mean, it was really about like getting traction, right? Because like Miso Robotics is not for you and I. Like, we're not the end consumer. We're B2B, right? We're looking to get into McDonald's, God willing, or, you know, or you know, we're in Cali Burger, and I'm glad John Miller, you know, is not only an investor, but he sits on the board with us. And through his connection of Cali Burger, we were able to put that in first. And through that, we were able to show, hey, White Castle, hey, the Dodgers, you know, because like before we had the Frybot at Dodger Stadium, at the Arizona Diamondback Stadium, to show how it made sense. So it was more necessarily that, like, I wasn't worried about like the tech or having a university involved. It was more that it was just like, well, who are we going to find the right people to sell the product and get there? Because, you know, you could have a great product, but if you don't have the right salespeople, it doesn't matter. Like, when you're looking at like your first hires as an entrepreneur, I think the 2 most important hires are, if it's a tech company, your CTO, right? Because not necessarily always your founder is the CTO. They need that extra, space of understanding the product. But the other person is your sales person or woman. And that's the key. I mean, like, those are two things that are going to build your company going forward and make me as an investor want to give you more money, because I see the trajectory of growth. Because, like, who are your sales and what the tech is, and how you can build out. Because everyone thinks like, oh, I'm going to create with something. Like, you're not everyone's Steve Jobs. Like, I'm going to make the iPhone, wanted by everybody, right? That's not how it works. It's like, you're going to be able, especially if you're B2B, you have to customize it to your customer. It's not going to be like it fits all. Not everything's like Microsoft Office initially right away. It's going to be designed for you specifically.
So it sounds like it does, at least for you, it doesn't matter if there's a university out there that owns like a portion of a team's IP, so long as you see that they are actually going to track and be able to push into their industry.
It's market share, right? I mean, it's like it's better to make some money than no money, right? Because, like, why would you hide it away? I mean, you got to somehow monetize it.
Great question. Okay, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time, since we are at like the end. I did want to thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us.
Of course.
Do you have any like final words of advice to all of the people who are still on? Just like maybe the most important thing they should think of when trying to get somebody to invest in them?
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, like, you're going to hear a lot of no's more than you are going to say yeses initially. And I think that happens. I mean, like if we all took no for an answer, then how would any sales take place, right? A good salesperson, and you're the best salesperson of your company. I mean, like, and I've seen it personally, like, I've seen people who are not great, haven't been to the best universities, like, aren't skilled at like certain, they're not going to be coding in Python, but you know what? They just don't give up. They just don't give up. And I think that's the most important thing I can leave you with, is that you're going to hear 99 no's before you get to that one yes. That one yes might lead to other yeses, through that one person. Because you have to build a consortium of believers. You just really do. You have to build a team of investors and a team of great people in your startup.
Great advice. Okay, so I will do my best to save the chat. Everyone keep an eye out for an email from me with the video. I don't know, I also put a link to John's website in the chat, so that you guys can visit there and keep in contact with him. Thank you so much, John. I hope to come back to the garage again.
Yeah.
Even on a small scale, to speak specifically to our teams, maybe once we're back up and operating in person.
Yeah, be great.
All
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, everyone.
Really,
it was helpful. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
thanks, Arcelia.
Yep, no problem. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.